Welcome to the Praxis Behind the Obscure podcast. And today I wanted to discuss dream yoga. So dream yoga is a thing that I was interested in a while back, but I never really dove into it in terms of reading that much about it extensively or attempting to practice it. But recently I picked up a few books on the topic, and so I figured it would be a good chance to share a little bit about the practice of dream yoga. And so for some people, they listen, dream yoga, what is that? Like, how do you do yoga while you're sleeping? How do you do yoga in your dreams, right? And so I did read a few books on the topic recently. One was called Dream Yoga and the Practice of Natural Light by Chogyal Namkhai Norbu. And I think this is the first book on the topic released in English. And so Dream Yoga is a part of the Vajrayana Tibetan Tantric Buddhist tradition, practiced in all lineages of Tibetan Buddhism. And also, I believe it mentioned that it was practiced in the Bonpo tradition or the pre-Buddhist tradition in Tibet as well. I've also come to recently find out that in Hindu Tantra or Kashmir Shaivism, I believe that they do also have dream yoga practices as well. However, I don't know much about if they're very similar or what the crossover is, but from what I've seen, there are quite a lot of similarities, from what little I've seen at least. Anyways, so I read the Dream Yoga and the Natural Practice of Clear Light by Chogyal Namkhai Norbu. Also, the Tibetan Art of Dream Analysis by Dr. Nida. And he comes from a traditional Tibetan medical background, but he's also a tantric practitioner. And the first book by Chogyal Namkhai Norbu, he's from the Nyingma lineage. And then I also read another book called Dream and Sleep Yoga by, The Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep by Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. And so he's actually more from the Bon lineage, which, as I mentioned, it did end up sort of fusing with Buddhism. However, it's more of a shamanistic pre-Buddhist lineage of practices that were already existent in Tibet prior to Buddhism coming there. And so I figured that first I'd start out with a little bit about sharing what is dream yoga. So in the West these days, lucid dreaming is a very popular topic. There are a lot of books on it. It's something that many people attempt to practice, many people are interested in. In some ways, so dream yoga actually does include these sort of practices, these sort of lucid dreaming practices, right? So one goal of dream yoga practice is to be aware, to sort of remind yourself. So, if you hear people lucid dreaming, they sort of create these anchors and triggers and reminders throughout the day that they are, that they are awake now, and then sort of checking if they're dreaming, things along those lines, right? Sort of reminders to remember to stay aware during your dreams, right? And so there are similar things in the dream yoga practice. However, in dream yoga, there are a few different types of dreams, right? There's a few different types of practices, right? And so one of them is, one type of dream is considered more of the karmic traces type dream. So it's sort of, random cause and effects, things that might have, traces that might have happened throughout your day, throughout your mindset, throughout your behavior. So it's sort of the manifestation of those things, right? And then another one is the dreams of clarity, where one is able to be lucid and sort of derive insights throughout your dreams, right? And then there's also the clear light type dreams, which are the dreams that this is ultimately considered like the highest highest goal of dream yoga, which is to sort of stabilize, enlighten awareness in the clear light throughout your dreaming process, right? And so in these traditions, while people practice, they do tantric practices, they do meditation, it's said that, you sleep, 7-8 hours a day. That's a big chunk of your life, and that's wasted time if you're not using that as well for practice, right? And so they view the dreams as sort of an extension of your daily practice as well, right? And so it's important to mention here too that the view here is that a dream is one sort of bardo or in-between state, right? So you have the dream state, the bardo of dream, and then you have the bardo of daily life, or the bardo of becoming, bardo of the world here, and then also the death, the bardo of bardo of death, or the bardo of the in-between state between death and rebirth, right? And so all of these bardos or states, the dream state, the waking state, and the death state, are points where you can practice, right? So in the daytime, one might practice meditation, or deity yoga, or tumo, kundalini type practices to achieve awareness and to wake up. And then in night, they might do dream yoga practices, which are an extension of that. And then in death, there are like other practices. There's bardo yoga, or powa, which is the transference of consciousness at death, in order to either achieve a higher rebirth, or enter a pure land, or transfer to another state. And so all of these practices kind of, while they all sort of come together, but they're utilized at different periods in different bardo states, right? And so that being said, I figured I would kind of share a little bit about the practices themselves. So there's a really cool little manual in one of the books, and it kind of gives you a basic guide, basic instructions, basic preparations for dream yoga. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to share this with people. This is actually my first solo podcast. Usually I have a guest on, but I thought this was interesting to share. So this is from an original dream yoga text, the dream yoga, the self-purifying illusion. So day one practice: during the day, while eating, dressing, walking, sitting, sleeping, or at any moment in your life, imagine the following: I'm sleeping and I'm dreaming. Think of all that, say it aloud, and imagine that this is all a dream, this is all an illusion, and say it aloud. The second part is practice before sleep. So before sleeping, visualize in the center of the throat chakra a white lotus flower with 4 petals. Here, you can imagine Guru Amitabha in union, so in union with consort, so that's sort of a tantric yidam deity. In his heart, there's a coral A surrounded by a lotus, which have the letters Anuttara, so the syllables, 4 syllables in the lotus petals, and then 1 in the middle with a A. So it is said that here, you can actually visualize this in English, so you can, you don't necessarily need to visualize a deity, but you at least should visualize your throat chakra, 4 petals with Anuttara, and then an A, even in English, A in the middle of that. This in red color. So it said that it's important to visualize this in red color. Okay. Here, you say, may I be able to catch the dream, to realize my own awareness within the dream, to transform the dream, to avoid fear in the dream, and to understand the truth of the dream. So after you recite that prayer, you chant the mantra Om Anuttara, which is the syllables that are on the lotus and in the middle of the lotus. Visualize that red light to be like rising sun, radiating from the body of the Guru, eliminating from your body all bad karma and provocations. Your body fills with red light, which then expands beyond your body. All of space becomes a pure land, and all sentient beings become dakas and dakinis. The light is offered to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The light comes back to the Guru's heart, and the A becomes very radiant and colorful. Focus your mind on it, as if you were threading a needle. Just before falling asleep, remind yourself, verbally or mentally, 21 times to catch your dream. So here you kind of see that you imagine this red light at your throat chakra. And there's other simpler ways to do this. So a very simple way mentioned in the other dream yoga text by Chogyal Namkhai Norbu is, instead of visualizing the lotus with the syllables and with the ah, you simply just sort of visualize a red sphere, a red ball with a ah in the middle of it. Could be an English A even, right? And you imagine that radiating out, cleansing your body of all the karma, bad karma, provocations, expanding outside of your body, and everything turning into a pure land, and then the light coming back with the sort of energy and blessings of the Buddhas, and then coming back to the ah in your throat. Okay, and then of course reminding yourself before you sleep. So why are we focusing on the throat here? It's said that the energies collect at different parts of the bodies at different time. So often when you're sleeping, it is said the energies are often collected at your throat. And so what some people will do before dream yoga is they'll do kundalini or tumo practices and bring the inner fire from the lower navel up to your throat. So sort of stimulating energy up the central channel into your throat so that you have a concentration of energy at your throat in order to, during the day, before sleep, in order to sort of facilitate awareness, a smooth transition into sleep where the energies naturally gather at your throat, right? Also during deep sleep, it said they sort of gather at your heart. And then in sleep, if you want to be more aware or awake during your dream practice, it is said often, if you're not becoming lucid, sometimes they'll have you focus the energy more at your crown or your head, right? Okay, so part 3 is catching the dream. So if you fall asleep mindfully, you can catch the dream. If you cannot catch it, it is because you're weak devotion, bad karma, lack of desire, courage, and effort. So you want to be more mindful, you want to pray more with your inner heart. If you still cannot catch the dream, after repeating this a few times, visualize the guru in your head, heart, navel, or base chakra. So as I mentioned, these are sort of the places where you collect the energies and they have sort of different effects, right? Deep sleep, lucidity, or heightened awareness. Upon waking, if you succeed in catching your dream, do not open your eyes. Keep them closed while being mindful and relaxed. This will help you further in overcoming the difficulty of catching your dream. And so part 4 is transforming the dream. So once you have a stable base from which to catch your dreams regularly, you should do purification, multiplication, and transformation. So what they mean here is that in your dream, if you are lucid, some practices you can do are sort of multiplying things, changing the size of things, changing the shapes of things. These are sort of beginning practices of being aware, lucid in dreams, and sort of changing reality around you in these dreams, right? Also during the day, you should imagine yourself in a dream and that you need to transform all these experiences so you can kind of see an extension into your daily life. Within the dream fire does not burn you, nor dream water floods you, or you can't fall off a cliff. Imagine yourself free of restrictions. Do the same meditation with wild animals, spirits, etc. Invoke these thoughts before sleeping. When you succeed in catching your dream, repeat these actions. For example, if an animal attacks you during the day, during a day, this is a dream animal, and therefore it cannot attack me. So sort of keep that in mind before going to sleep, right? In other words, reminding yourself that you can't be harmed in these dreams, right? During the day, in whatever you see or experience, think of it like a dream. And in the dream, you can do anything, transforming water into fire, changing objects at will. Okay? And so, there's some other notes here on antidotes. So if you encounter demons in your dreams, you can sort of summon stronger deities to overcome them. So they give you examples of Hayagriva, a wrathful deity, or Vajrapani. It's also important to note that for people who do deity yoga practice, before going to sleep, when you are bringing the energies to your throat, you also visualize yourself as that yidam, as that deity. So it could be Vajrayogini, Chakra Samvara, whoever it is. And you can actually, as you practice the practice in the daytime, you carry over in the form of that deity into the dream world, into the dream yoga practice. Okay. All right, so it also mentions Pure Lands. You can also visit any Pure Land you wish, listen to the Buddha's teachings, travel continents, focus your mind strongly. So it also mentions, you can listen to, it is said you can learn, listen to Dharma talks, and do other practices in these dreams, visit other Pure Lands, right? Okay, so other things that I'll mention for dream preparation practice. It is good to be in a quiet, dark atmosphere. Kind of cut off, common sense stuff like cutting off mobile phones, television, and other things before bed. Eating lighter food, cooked vegetables. It says heavy foods affect digestion and dreaming. You want to reduce your fluid intake. Okay. And here I'll make a note that some practices will have you wake up every few hours, so they'll set alarms, and then you sort of redo the practice and fall asleep, redo the practice and fall asleep every couple hours. That way, if you weren't lucid the first time, you can kind of rehash the process or sharpen up the process. And each part of the night sort of has different, they're different benefits, so to speak, or different things you can experience, right? Also not good to drink coffee or tea at night, more common sense there, right? Okay. Also, one practice you can also do before starting your dream yoga, it's recommended in pretty much all of these books here that I read, is to do the, what is called the 9-step purification breath. And so that simply is, you cover your left nostril. Some people call this alternate nostril breathing. So you cover your left nostril, breathe in through your right, and imagine that you are taking in pure male energy, okay? And then you breathe out, cover your right, breathe out through your left, and you're exhaling the sort of, toxins or anger, aggression, and negative aspects out. And then you repeat that again 3 times. Then you move to the left nostril, so you cover the right, and start from the other side 3 times. So breathe in through the left while covering the right nostril, breathing in female energy, and then out through the right, sort of the, desire, jealousy, and those sort of negative traits, and murky energy coming out your right nostril. And you can also imagine the male as being white, the female as being red. The energy is going through the right nostril, white. Energy is going through the left nostril, red, as they come in and out, respectively. And then imagine your central channel. You're breathing in this blue energy, that sort of the equalizing energy 3 times. So that's why it's 9 breaths, right? So 3 on the right nostril, 3 in through the right, out through the left, 3 in through the left, out through the right nostril, and then 3 with both nostrils, in and out, deep breaths of equalizing energy, okay? And so this is said to sort of clear out your energy channels and make it more optimal for dream yoga practice. And also this is done in, Kundalini, Tumo, and most other systems as sort of a preliminary, right? Okay. Also, here's another important point. So the body should rest on the right side, left arm on the body, right little finger covering the right nostril. Okay, so this is actually an important point. So here, it's actually different depending on if you're male or female. So what it is said, it's that males have an advantage of, it's better for them to, let's see. Okay, so lie down in the correct posture, men on the right side, women on the left side. So it's sort of the men have more like dominant energy on the right side, women on the left side, right? So when you close off those channels, it makes it more optimal for dream yoga, easier to do, right? So you want to lay on the right for your right side for men, left side for women, okay? And one other thing you can do is sort of visualize dakinis or beings protecting you, angels, dakinis, whatever floats your boat, right? And sort of calm your breathing. Here you can also cover, if you're laying on the right side with the left arm on your body, your little right finger can cover your right nostril, okay? That's optimal. And you can, like I said, imagine protecting beings around you, breathe comfortably, gently, get relaxed and present, and create a strong intention to have vivid dreams where you recognize the dream as a dream, right? Okay, so also mentions that for time, dream yoga, obviously it's mostly practiced at night. At this time, our lunar energy starts to circulate in our channels. It's an ideal time for dream yoga practice. And therefore, energetically, sleeping through the day is not usual for this practice, right? Not ideal. And also, of course, as they mentioned, the throat chakra is the main door of the dreams. It makes it easier to catch dreams there, as I mentioned, because the energy congregates there during dreams. And as mentioned earlier, you can use the heart chakra for deeper sleep and the head to be more aware if you sleep deeply and you can't achieve lucidity, right? And so, as mentioned, the simple way is either sort of a red sphere, a red four-petaled lotus with a A in the middle of it, or you can have Om Anuttara, which if you know the Tibetan, you can have that, or just in English, surrounding the petals and in the middle. And there are 4 processes of this practice. So you have the catch, purify, overcome fear, and illusion. So starting the practice of dream yoga is like entering into the dream yoga house. The entrance of the building is called catching the dream, which means staying in a state of active awareness while dreaming. Several methods can be used to do this. Meditate on your empty body in channels, so central channel, left, right. Sleep mindfully with a gentle breath. Focus on the desire to catch your dream, so the prayers and desires we mentioned earlier. Visualize a small or white or red energy with a syllable or letter. So I mentioned that you can imagine a red ball with a A. You can also imagine that lotus with Om Anuttara, and recite this mantra. One mantra people recite is Om Anuttara, which is on that lotus before you sleep. Mantra visualization, so you can meditate and visualize the mind as clean and pure. With the mantra recitation, visualize either a small red ball of light, or you can even see your whole body as a red light. Okay, and the next step is if you achieve lucidity, there are transformational things you can do in dreams, right? So transforming the subject in a dream state, right? So we mentioned you can transform objects, you can transform yourself, right? So as I mentioned, the size of things, multiplying them, etc., right? Traveling, flying through space, visiting different countries, walking through walls are things you can do. Rising to pure lands. And here's another really, really big part of this practice. So one thing that they mention you should do is overcome your fears in dreams. So this is, everybody harbors these fears, and in the dream practice, it can be very helpful to overcome your fears, your attachments, right? And so one thing, it's a mental exercise of working through these fears and purifying yourself. So illusory meditation, the dream practitioner meditates on the illusionary nature of mind, remembering that everything is a dream coming from mind. Therefore, all of our thoughts and manifestations are illusions from our mind. They're pure in nature. It's mentioned that when we realize while we are dreaming that our dream is merely a projection of the mind, it is illusion, we become aware of the nature of mind. Such awareness can be perceived in the waking state. Dreaming, there's no separation of subject-object, mind or matter, and no differentiation. So it's here that we sort of work into the clear light, right? Recognizing the clear light in the dream as you do in deep meditation, and resting in this non-dual awareness, right? So some more tips it's mentioned is that you can meditate on the illusory body, keeping in mind that the body is an illusion. From time to time, look into the mirror, talk to your image as a perfect example that is an illusion. Time to time, chant the mantra throughout the day. Do breathing exercises that we mentioned. You can also chant the mantra that we mentioned, Om Anuttara. And then before bed, the same thing, the aspiration, the mantra, seeing the red light in your throat or lotus in your throat, getting in the right position, right or left side, and breathing steadily, calming the mind, and focusing the energy at the throat. And as mentioned, of course, you can do a Kundalini practice to bring the energies in the central channel up to the throat. All right, some other things that I can mention here are removing grasping and aversion. So encounter all things that create desire and attachment as illusory and empty. Luminous phenomenon of a dream. Recognize that your reactions to phenomenon as a dream, all emotions, judgments, and preferences are being dreamed up. You can be certain that you're doing this correct. You can be certain that you're doing this correctly if immediately upon remembering that your reaction is a dream, desire and attachment lessen. You also want to remember to strengthen your intention before going to sleep, as we mentioned, and begin the day with a strong intention to maintain the practice. Remember you are lucid in your dream. Commit yourself to the practice to be lucid throughout the day and generate strong intention. So sort of reminding yourself throughout the day to that things are illusory, and that you have the intention to remain lucid even throughout the night. Okay, I just wanted to give a brief run through of what dream yoga is in the Tibetan tradition, and some sort of tips for preparation and real basic instructions. And I definitely recommend picking up these books. There are 3 of them, as I mentioned, and I'll include those in the show notes. I think the book that really has the most simple instructions and straightforward at the end of it is the Tibetan Art of Dream Analysis by Dr. Nida, so I'll include that. A real brief and simple breakdown of dream yoga, I would say, was Chogyal Namkhai Norbu's book, and maybe a more detailed but sort of mixes in many different practices would be the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep. So that just gives you an idea of the different kind of approaches that you can expect. And yeah, maybe in the comments share if you end up doing these practices. As I mentioned, they are practiced often with like the 6 yogas of Naropa, working with the Bardo, conscious transference, Kundalini practices, and stabilization and clear light, which is the ultimate goal of dream yoga. But prior to that, obviously achieving lucidity, working through fears, working through karmic traces. These are all parts of these dreams. And it's also important to mention that there are certain symbols in the dreams of clarity, which is cool that Dr. Nida's book includes, that the different symbols that pop up in dreams, and it has a sort of little dictionary that what sort of meanings these symbols often have. So that's another benefit of his book, is that it includes a little more on symbolism and things like that the other 2 books didn't include. All right, so until next time.